The sonic goals of Clarus cables gets into the voicing of audio cables, which is something that nobody ever really talks about in my experience. Essentially, I have a long history of listening to live music. I was a subscriber at the old Carnegie Hall, and I have a very good sonic memory in terms of what things sound like. I'm also a musician, so I'm very sensitive to what does live music sound like in a live space. I think frequently a lot of audio designers seek to give you an exaggerated hi-fi kind of sense to the sound, but to me that's just not accurate. So my goal is and always has been to come up with designs that are basically neutral. I want to just communicate whatever was on the recording through the cable and to the electronics, the speakers, whatever, but I don't think that the cable itself should have any particular variation or impose any particular variation on the signal that's there. So essentially, I'm looking for a natural, neutral sounding cable that accurately produces the sound of live music. One of the things I do to achieve that is any prototype cables I'll listen to through a number of different systems so that I'm sure that the sound of the cable itself isn't really changing the sound quality. And the only way to do that really is to use live music as a reference and also a number of different audio systems that you're very familiar with so that you understand what the normal sound is of a particular recording. Unless you were in the recording studio when that recording was made, you never really know. So you can only get an approximation of that by listening to these things under many different circumstances and conditions. So eventually you arrive at a composite picture of what it's supposed to sound like. And it's only then that you can determine whether the cable is imparting any particular sonic signature of its own. And to me, that's something to be avoided. And when I do the voicing and listening tests of the cable, that is the goal, really, is to achieve neutrality as much as possible. Now, some have said that the Clarus cables are a little bit forward sounding in the mid-range, but I would argue that that is the natural sound of most music because the human ear is most sensitive in the mid-range. And if you get it right, it might seem to be a little bit forward, but I think it's accurate. So essentially, the goal of the Clarus cables and the voicing of them is geared towards neutrality rather than exaggerating high frequencies for impact or low frequencies or what have you. It's not to make a more impressive demonstration. It's really to get out of the way and to just let the music be as it was recorded.